friends, it's Christy, and I'm so excited to be back with you on the My Favorite Things YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using the Sunny Vibes stamp set. So I've stamped the images I'm using with Extreme Black Hybrid ink on Neenah Solar White cardstock, and I'm going to be coloring with my Copic markers. I'm starting with the little cat, and for her I'm using Y32, Y35, and Y38. I'm going to lay in some shadows with that Y38 all over her body, and I'm even going to go right over the stripes on the tail, since the stripes that I'll be adding will be a darker shade, so they can go right over that lighter golden yellow. Then I'm going to bring in the Y32 and begin to blend out my darkest. So I had to chuckle when I first saw this stamp set because my husband and I have been dreaming of going on a tropical beach vacation, just the two of us, for such a long time. And we thought we might actually be able to manage it this year for our 20th wedding anniversary until everything started happening, and it looks like we probably won't be able to make it this year, but I thought I could at least recreate it on this card. So I'm finishing up the little cat with the Y32, and that is definitely me because I've always got my nose in a book. In fact, I carry a book with me everywhere I go, and the little dog is going to represent my husband. I added in the YR04 for the stripes on the forehead and the tail, and I blended those out with the Y38. And then I'll bring in RV23 to color in the inside of the kitty's ears and her nose. And I added in RV25 and RV29. I'm going to use the RV29 to color in the rims of the glasses, just being very careful and using the very tip of my marker so I can stay in those fine lines. And then I'll use all three of those shades to color in the first section of the umbrella. I wanted to do kind of like a tropical rainbow color palette on today's card. So I'm just brightening things up with kind of vibrant citrusy colors. So I started with the RV29 on the outside edge, and I'm blending toward the center with the RV25 and finishing with the RV23. For the sun, I'm using Y11, Y13, and Y15. I put the Y15 down at the bottom right, and I'm blending toward the top left. And I did go back and add a bit more of the Y13 and Y11. And then I'm using the Y15 to quickly color in the little rays. For the beach chair, I'm using YG11, YG13, and YG17, and you can see that I'm also coloring additional images with each combo off screen just to save some time in the video and keep things nice and short for you. Next, I'm going to skip over to the dog, and I wanted to do him in a two-tone color. So I'm using E50, E51, and E53 on his body. Starting with the E53, I just did a shadow down the back of his body and, of course, on his little legs underneath the shorts, so they would be casting a shadow. And then I'm blending that out with the E51, and then saving most of him for that E50 because I wanted him to be nice and light. And then for his ears, I'm going to use E53, E55, and E57. I'll also use that E50 to color in any of the objects that I wanted to remain white so they would have a little bit of shading to them. For his swim trunks, I'm using BG11, BG13, and BG15. But I quickly realized that I wasn't reaching the level of contrast that I was getting with some of my other combos, so I did add in the BG18 as well, and I was much happier with that. So I just went right over all of the coloring that I had done and added a second layer to just smooth out that blend. And then I'll use the BG11. My favorite pair of sunglasses I ever owned had blue tinted lenses. So I'm going to add that, and then I'll also use that on the tops of the glasses in the cooler. And then I'll trim these images out with the coordinating dies. For the background, I have taken a piece of Bristol Smooth Surface cardstock and masked that off into 3 sections using 2 pieces of Post-it tape. And the first piece down towards the bottom of the card is actually torn. And I'm blending on some Distress Oxide ink in Antique Linen. Then I realized I actually needed the torn edge to go the other way, so I just shifted that tape. And then I'm going to blend right up to that torn edge. Then I'm going to darken the bottom corners and sides with a little bit of gathered twigs. I didn't want that to get too dark, so I'm using really light pressure and just adding that color on the bottom and sides. And then I tapped off a bit of the ink on my work surface and carefully went over the antique linen. I'm going to press a little ink from both of those pads onto my work surface and water it down with my distress sprayer. I'm going to cover the top half of the panel and then do some splatter details so that it looks like sand. Once I have this completely covered with some nice larger and smaller size droplets, I'll move on to the top half of the card. So starting just below that Post-it tape, I'm blending on some tumbled glass Distress Oxide ink. And once I have a little bit of that laid in, so I have a horizon line, I'm also going to blend a bit of that onto the sky, but I'm just going to be careful to keep a little bit of that line showing so that you can see the difference between those 2 areas. Once I have enough ink at the top, I'm going to replace that Post-it tape and I'm going to blend on some broken china right below it. And then I'll go back to my tumbled glass and just soften up the edge. And I want that to fade into white before it hits the shoreline. I'll peel off that mask and add just a tiny bit of that broken china to define the top edges. And then once that's dry, I'm going to pop it in my MISTI. And I did trim that down with the A2 Stitch Rectangle STAX Set 2. And now I'm stamping a sentiment in brown ink at the bottom right corner using the one that says Sending Sunshine. And I also want to do some stamping on the inside of my card so that there's a nice surprise for the recipient. So I am popping my card base, which is made from snow cone cardstock, also in my MISTI, and stamping the little buggy and Have a Relaxing Day. So now that that's done, I can begin to adhere my images, and I'm starting with the palm tree, and I'm going to add that in the top right area of the sandy shore. And then I'm going to take the little kitty with her book, and I'm going to put that in the opposite corner down at the bottom left. Then I'll take the little dog and have him putting down the umbrella right above her. So that just reminds me of me and my husband. Hopefully someday we'll get to do our tropical beach vacation. I'll add the cooler kind of underneath the base of the palm tree so it can be sitting in the shade so those drinks don't get too hot. And then I'll put the little pail and shovel down right above the sentiment and also add the little clamshell. And then finally I've got the sunshine, and I'm going to put that up in the top left corner. I added foam tape to the back of my panel so that I could pop it up and give it a little bit of dimension. So I'll peel off those release papers and then line it up in the center of my card and press it down into place. And then I felt like the sky was looking a little bare, so I took the cloud dies from the Bertie Brown Magical Friends stamp set, and I cut 3 of those out. So I'm going to tuck one of the larger ones behind the sun rays, and then I'll add the other 2 over in the top right corner above the palm tree. So I'm going to put the one that's the same farthest away, and then I'll break that up by adding the different one in between. And that is going to complete my card for today. There is another peek at the inside. I hope you guys enjoyed the June edition of Christy Gets Crafty with my favorite things. I had a blast creating this one for you. It was almost as good as being there. Almost. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to My Favorite Things for more inspiring videos just like these here on screen. Bye-bye.